This is the Anthropology Podcast, the podcast where we optimize the bodies, brains, and lifestyles of entrepreneurs, go-getters, and world-changing innovators.
Hey, friends. Welcome to the Anthropology Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Walker, and I'm excited to jump in today for a solo episode. Last week, I had the privilege and pleasure of hanging out on the podcast with one of my closest friends and colleagues, Dr. Erin Wiley. And we shared on that podcast that I'm going to be making some really significant transitions in my career. And the first and foremost, if you missed that podcast episode last week, I shared that I'm actually going to be stepping down permanently from private practice, working one-on-one with patients. Now, if you recall, I shared towards the end of last summer that I was going to take some time to really gain some perspective around how I wanted to pursue all the different elements that I had moving forward in my career. And so I decided to take some time off practice to really evaluate how I wanted to spend my time and where I wanted to place my energy moving forward. And the last 4 months have really been a great opportunity to gain some perspective on how I really wanted to be living my life from a place of intention moving forward and how I wanted to further my impact. And I wanted to share all of those pieces with you today because I know in our audience, we have other entrepreneurs who are looking at making significant shifts in their own businesses and with their own lives. I have patients who I know listen to this podcast, and I know I also have colleagues. And so the one thing I have always made a promise about way back from the very beginning is that no matter what I did with my career, I was more committed to the mission at hand than the model in which I served that mission. And for the last 12 years, the model in which I have served my mission, which is underlying this core belief that when people have their health, they can change the world. The model in which I have served that has actually had multiple faces. But the backbone of that has been my career as a naturopathic doctor working one-on-one with patients. About 5 years into that one-on-one practice model and building up the Integrative Health Institute with Erin Wiley, I decided to step back from that practice and split my time between private practice and launching a new business called Bright Almond. And the role of Bright Almond was really to connect consumers to licensed and regulated practitioners. And I worked with Bright Almond for 3 years, and simultaneous to that had my practice and slowly started to build up this following of practitioners who were interested in me teaching them more about business and the models that I used in my own practice. And as that side of what I was doing really started to pick up steam, and most importantly, when I realized that this was truly a vertical of work that spoke to my soul, that I enjoyed in a way that I didn't even expect, I started to reorganize my time. I stepped down from Bright Almond and split my time between clinical practice and the work that I was doing with practitioners. Over the last 4 years, that work with practitioners has grown from the launch of one small online program called The First 18 to the creation of a significant live event called Impact Lives, the launch of our mastermind called the Clinician Code, and the release of a brand new program for practitioners called the Clinician CEO. To say that we have grown as a company in the last 2 years has been an understatement. And while we have built out that growth slowly but surely and sticking to our mission, it's still about optimizing and helping more people reach the practitioners who are delivering upstream medicine. So I never veered from that. It was actually just a way to assist in building out an army of successful practitioners who were reaching more people. And so that work was really important and really critical to me. And so simultaneous to that, I maintained my private practice. And as I needed to create a little bit more space, I brought on more and more team members to handle the overflow of patients that I had, but also the complexity of care that we were starting to see coming in. And that was all working really, really well. But what I realized was happening in the process, that despite everything working on a financial perspective and things working from the outside and us being able to serve people, I was actually finding it really tough to manage all of those elements. I was finding it really tough to find time to spend with my kids. I was finding it difficult to handle those cases with respect to my patients that required more of my attention. And so on those days where I was working working with patients, what I was finding was that I was actually in the office until 11:30 or 12 o'clock at night. And often I would text my husband, it would be well pushing midnight. And I would say, I just want to let you know I'm leaving the office now. I just want you to know where I am. So I'm going to take the subway home. And please make sure that you go to bed. And so while it was working on the outside, it wasn't working for me. They say that you are the product of the 5 people with whom you spend the most time. Imagine you could spend time with hundreds of fellow entrepreneurs and go-getters looking to up-level their business, body, and mindset. The Anthropology Collective does not belong to us. It belongs to you. Come hang out with us on Facebook and let us collectively inspire, support, and cheerlead you towards your vision for contribution, your commitment towards better health, and your journey of mindset mastery. We are in this together. We are entrepreneurs by birth, by choice, and by mission. We are the Anthropology Collective. Search for us on Facebook and come join your tribe. And the turning point for that was one evening I had seen patients all day long, and I tended to, at this point, to put everyone on one day. It allowed me to get into the flow. And to be really clear, the thing I loved most about my week was really the opportunity to be working one-on-one with patients. But when I finished with that, when I finished sitting with them and being present and I got to the end of the day, that's when all of the work of those interactions would pile up. And that work is critical, especially when you're a regulated health practitioner. You can't put off the writing of the notes and the charting and the follow-up and all of the things that individuals require when you are caring for them with that level of diligence. And so I had to nip out and pick up a few things, and I was standing in the drugstore line, and in front of me was this flashing lottery sign. And I often ask myself this question, and it's kind of been a gut check for knowing whether or not I'm on track. And that lottery sign was flashing for like $50 million. And I asked myself the question I always ask when I see a flashing lottery sign, which is 1, have you bought a ticket? And 2, if you win, what's going to be different the next day? And for the very first time in asking myself that question, my answer had changed. See, whenever I had asked that question before, my answer was always like, oh, well, I would pay off my mortgage and go for a nice trip, but I actually would shift absolutely nothing else about my career. And this was the first time where my gut check response was different. And it was without hesitation that I said I would take a break from, or I would step back from treating patients. And that interaction with that sign happened back in the summer. And it was the first time that I said, oh, maybe I need to take a break. I need to take a break to really explore how I feel when I don't have this opportunity to work with people in front of me. How do I feel about having invested so much in my education and my credentials and my time with patients? Do I feel a sense of remorse for that time? Do I want to go back? I wanted to give myself the opportunity to be able to make a decision moving forward that came from a place of truth. And I was very fortunate to be in a position where I could hit pause on that I had colleagues who could step in for me, but also financially, I had another stream of income, which was the work that I was doing with practitioners. And what I realized at the end of that 6 months was that the work that I love to do more than anything was reflected in each of those patient visits that I had. It was reflected every time I was able to step up onto a stage and say something triggering or controversial or transformational for that audience. And that was, I am deeply passionate about helping individuals drive transformation in their life. And I had an experience this fall hosting Impact Lives where we were talking about money mindset. And I was standing on stage and I was watching everyone's face, and I was a little bit confused as to what everyone was going through or how they felt. But the looks on people's faces were familiar, and they were the same looks that I would have with patients in my office when we were really getting to the root cause of what needed to take place for someone to have deep transformation in their lives. But what I realized standing on the stage at Impact Lives was that I was in that moment assisting 200 people through a phase of transformation and not just one. And it became so clear to me that there was an opportunity and a path moving forward that allowed me and would enable me to be even more efficient in how I could facilitate that transformation for people while simultaneously continuing to serve my mission in helping more people reach the type of practitioner that I was proud to have become. And so the decision to step back from practice is not because I don't value naturopathic medicine. It's not because I couldn't make a go of it. It's not because I didn't want to work with patients any longer. It's because to actually serve the mission that I want to serve in a bigger way, I was now at a point where I was having to acknowledge that I couldn't do it all. And I think for us as entrepreneurs and as parents and as women, whenever we have a point where we're starting to recognize that, it causes all sorts of inner dialogue and crises to come to the surface. And I really wanted to make that transition on my own terms. I didn't want it to happen because my health was starting to fail. I didn't want it to happen because I was beginning to resent my work with patients. I wanted all of the next phase to happen in a way that enabled a really consistent and quality continuity of care for the people that I have worked with and have a deep respect for. And I also wanted it to serve as an important platform for myself moving forward onto that next phase. And so there really was an opportunity that presented itself early in 2020 where I could make that transition. And I believe that luck is often the coming together of preparedness and hard work. And so when luck happened in March, where I had an opportunity to make a transition, I decided that I was going to make that shift and make that step. And so last week you had an opportunity to hear from and get to know my friend, Dr. Erin Wiley, a little bit more. And I couldn't be more confident in the care that I am going to be recommending moving forward as individuals are looking for practitioners who work in a manner that's very similar to me, who are looking for programming and are looking for health optimization from the same philosophy that I've always spoken to. Erin is going to continue to be a top recommendation of mine, and she is certainly the place where I feel most comfortable at this point sending the majority of my patients. In fact, many of my patients have been working with her for a period of time already. A quick note from our sponsor, Badass Fuel. 2 years ago, someone asked me what supplements I take to maintain my health, my energy, and my edge. And they were surprised that I only took 4 things consistently. For myself and my patients, there are 4 basics that support at a foundational level nearly every system in our body. In my quest for the highest quality ingredients and the easiest system for consistently incorporating supplementation into my routine, I formulated and manufactured my own line of foundational supplements. My intention with this line was first and foremost quality, but equally important was a system for taking and naming the support that ease the incorporation of supplements into your life. It's trusted for myself and my patients, under the guidance of your own healthcare provider, I'm excited to invite you to check out our foundational product line, Badass Basics. You can learn more or order the products yourself by visiting www.badassfuel.com. And what I'm going to start to do with my time is actually breathe a little bit more, walk the talk on what I have been sharing with my patients over the last 12 years, and really starting to build out a platform online that enables you as entrepreneurs who really want to have a balance between building an effective business and building an effective life. We're going to start to build out a platform for you to be able to do that. And over the course of the next year, if you follow me here on the Anthropology podcast and on my Instagram, and my handle on Instagram is just at Dr. Megan Walker, I'm going to share more and more about what that evolution looks like, so that towards the end of 2020 and into early 2021, we're going to release an entirely new platform built for female entrepreneurs looking to make a significant impact in this world. We're going to be talking health, mindset, and business, and how the confluence of those three things coming together actually start to make you unstoppable. I am so excited about the future, but for the first time in a really long time, I'm also really excited about the present. I've always taken comfort in the future. I've always taken comfort in the future vacation and in the future rest. But what I'm taking comfort in right now is the bravery to step back and really start to build out my life on my own terms, to start to shift my career, to start to build out the platforms that are going to enable me and the team of people that I work with to have the kind of impact that we have dreamed about for so long. It has honestly been one of the greatest honors and privileges of my life working with patients. And I am emotional, but not regretful about the opportunity to care for all of you the way you have allowed me to care for you. And one of the things you will learn about hearing emotion in my voice is that we don't edit our podcast. We just keep going straight through. But I wanted you to hear from me directly. I wanted you to hear how real our relationship really has been. And I want you to know how deeply I believe in the power of upstream medicine, of treating the root cause of the problem, of working with an individual to understand where they uniquely require support, and to move beyond a model of medicine that's focused on transactional care, but is truly rooted in transformation. It's taken me a long time to make this transition because just like you, I faced limiting beliefs around what this was going to mean. I was worried that stepping away from private practice meant that I would lose credibility as a voice in the health space. I've since come to believe and know that that's not going to be the case. I also felt that it meant that I might lose credibility with my fellow practitioners, that they may not feel that I necessarily had the same experience in being able to speak to what it takes to build a business in this particular vertical. But having worked with hundreds of practices and continuing to work with hundreds of practitioners, what I know is that too was a limiting belief. In fact, as I spoke through this whole process with one of my colleagues, she in fact begged me not to go back to practice. She said, one of the things I am looking for from you is for you to help me carve a new path, for me to know that it's possible for us to have careers as naturopathic doctors or functional medicine doctors that exist in a way that are not just caring for patients one-on-one. And so the last 5 months have truly been a period of deep transformation and work for myself. And I promise you moving forward that the work that I have done and the work that we have done together are going to serve something bigger for all of us. I wish all of you the opportunity to create the space in your own careers, to create the space to be true to who you are, to make the brave steps that you need to make and the decisions that you need to make to move forward to have the impact that you were meant to have. Now, I know I've been going on, but I truly feel that this message is important. You are all important to me, and I'm so excited moving forward for us to be able to continue our relationship together, hanging out here on the Anthropology podcast. As you may have guessed, I have a lot to say, and we have a lot of places to go together, and I can't wait to see you here again next week and in the future. Best wishes, everybody. We'll be hanging out here again, same place, same time next Tuesday. Hey, bosses. If that resonated with you, I would love your feedback over on Apple Podcasts. Every single review, every comment you leave makes a huge difference in terms of the Anthropology podcast being able to reach more people, help more people, and pull more individuals into our vector and vertical of leadership that we are using to try to change the world. Now, if you want to discuss a little bit more about today's topic or other topics that affect us as leaders and go-getters in this world, come on over and hang out with me in the Anthropology Collective. In this Facebook group, we have women from around the world dedicated to living a life of purpose, a healthy life, an intentional life as we cruise through and engage in our missions here on planet Earth. I would love for you to join us. I'm excited about what you do. Until we meet again next week, go build something amazing.